very, very unclear.
I understand that's a legal argument, but according to the United Nations and according to the Geneva Convention,
according to the United Nations,
that you're saying does not
according
stand.
to the United Nations, Jews kill babies and take their organs.
President Barack Obama's Secretary of State John Kerry making a big speech on the Middle East tomorrow, but what will happen in the region after Donald Trump takes office? Let's discuss now with Yusuf Munir. He's Executive Director of the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights. Also, attorney Alan Dershowitz. He is the author of The Case for Israel. Gentlemen, thank you so much, and it's going to be an interesting conversation. Alan, I'm going to start with you. As I said in the introduction, Secretary of State John Kerry making an announcement tomorrow about this controversial UN resolution and about the Middle East peace plan. The U.S. didn't veto it. It abstained. So why do you think the Obama administration is taking these actions now?
Well, first of all, I think it's fine for Secretary Kerry to make a proposal for peace. What was wrong was tying his successor's hands by having the United Nations Security Council take the issue and issue a very broad resolution which would make it illegal for Jews to pray at the Western Wall, to send their children and Arab Israelis to Hebrew University or to treatment at Hadassah Hospital. It was too broad. It was a badly constructed resolution. But let us, Secretary
how would it
Kerry,
make it illegal to? That would make it illegal to settle on the land. It wouldn't make it illegal to go there to visit.
No, a settlement means any building. And take for example,
if you're just
the Jewish quarter of Jerusalem. So the Jewish quarter had been inhabited by Jews for hundreds of years. The Jordanians captured it illegally during a genocidal war against Israel in 1948. Israel recaptured it after the Jordanians attacked Israel in 1967. The Jews moved back into their homes. The synagogues had been desecrated. The cemeteries were turned into
I know
urinals.
where you're going with that, but no
That's
state,
called a settlement.
But no state recognizes that. No state recognizes that.
Well, that's up for negotiation,
right.
but the
but
UN
it's always been a negotiation. Jerusalem has always been under negotiation for a two-party.
That's right, but the UN shouldn't resolve it. It should be subject to negotiation. Yeah. Israel wants to offer land for peace, but if there's no land to offer, if the UN has already said this is illegal when it's subject to negotiation, it has concluded what should be concluded only after a negotiation.
Go ahead, Yusuf.
Well, the legality of it is not subject to negotiation. In fact, this is not controversial. The entire world, with the exception of Israel, and actually within Israel, it's the right wing in Israel that does not
There's no other country that recognizes it.
Right. It's one of the least controversial things in the world that settlements in occupied territory are illegal. And it's actually been, well established U.S. policy.
It's part of the Geneva Convention.
It is part of the Geneva Conventions, and the United States has recognized as much, not just this past week, but historically in many different resolutions. And where I would disagree very much with Alan is on this notion that somehow this is tying Donald Trump's hands. There have been many resolutions like this in the past, which frankly, presidents have ignored when it comes to enforcement.
There have been many resolutions during the Obama administration. This is the only one that they have abstained from, and the only one where they did not back Israel.
The only time that the Obama administration has ever used its veto at the United Nations Security Council was to prevent a resolution criticizing settlements. Mm-hmm. And I think what you're seeing today, this hysteria in response from the Israelis, is an attempt really to exact costs on any elected officials in the future from ever deviating even an inch from the Netanyahu right-wing line.
Well, first of all, there is no Israeli leader who believes that Jewish Jerusalem, the Jewish quarter of Jerusalem, Hebrew University, Hadassah Hospital, the Western Wall is illegally occupied. Nobody believes that. President Obama went to the Western Wall and prayed and put a prayer in it. Up until now, it's always been believed that whatever the resolution is going to be, these areas will remain part of Israel. But now, Israel's negotiating position has been undercut by saying that this area has been unlawful. Now, who did Israel take it from? It didn't take it from the Palestinians. It took it from the Jordanians who had taken it from the Jews. Remember that the
really
Jews controlled, it doesn't matter, it matters a great deal.
No,
the Jews had
really
controlled those areas, and then as the result...
It doesn't matter in terms of international law. It doesn't matter in terms of
I'm the lawyer
Geneva
here. Let me tell you that international law is very,
very
unclear.
I understand that's a legal argument, but according to the United Nations and according to the Geneva Convention,
according to the United
argument
Nations,
that you're saying does not
according
stand.
to the United Nations, Jews kill babies and take their organs. The United Nations has rendered thousands of resolutions against Israel, most of them totally phony and based on phony facts. Nobody should take seriously what the United Nations ever says about Israel. The United Nations is a center for anti-Israel activities.
Again,
it's silent over Syria, but it has resolution over resolution. It's silent over Tibet. It's silent over the Ukraine. It's silent over everything except Israel. So nobody should take the UN seriously at all on this issue.
Go ahead, Yusuf.
The Israelis have, for the past 50 years, been building these illegal settlements on occupied Palestinian territory. And the world has said to the Palestinians, be patient. Eventually, the Israelis will change. And if you were in a relationship with anybody and they had a bad habit for 50 years, let's say, yelling over people during arguments or something, right? And they refused to change. And someone said to you, look, just be patient, they'll change. Would you put up with that? It's not just the United Nations that has this position. It's every country in the world that's speaking at the United Nations.
But now let's
the British, the French, the Russians, the Americans, everybody around the world except for the right-wing radical fringe in Israel believes that they need to stop colonizing Palestinian territory.
So in
there's
2000,
a line.
Which is
beyond that line, building is illegal.
In 2001, Israel offered to end all settlements, end the occupation, give the Palestinians a state. Arafat said no and responded with an intifada which killed 4,000 people. In 2008, Olmert said to the Palestinian leadership, we'll give you even more. The Palestinians said no. When the Palestinians refuse decent offers from the Israelis, you can't put the blame on the Israelis.
But it was the offer of the Israelis. It wasn't a mutual offer to be
only one
agreed
side
upon.
is building settlements in the other side's territory.
But Israel offered to stop the settlements.
But
it
it has
doesn't
never
need the
actually
UN.
stopped.
Yes, it has. There was a settlement freeze.
Years, it's been building these
there was
settlements.
a settlement.
And by the way,
according to
during the
resolution,
there was a settlement freeze for 10 months, and the Palestinians refused to come to the bargaining table.
Right. And I spoke with Dr. Asrawi about that this morning. She
want a Palestinian state. What they want is there not to be a Jewish state.
I want to play this because this is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accusing Americans of pushing this resolution through. Look.
From the information that we have no doubt that the Obama administration initiated it, stood behind it, coordinated on the wording, and demanded that it be passed.
The administration denies categorically that it is behind the resolution. Listen.
We reject the notion that the United States was the driving force behind this resolution. That's just not true. The United States did not draft this resolution, nor did it put it forward. We also made clear at every conversation, that the president would make the final decision and that he would have to review the final text before making his final decision. So the idea that this was, again, pre-cooked or that we had agreed upon the text weeks in advance is just not accurate.
Do you view the actions of the United States here as a victory for the Palestinian cause, Yusuf?
Look, this is not about a victory for Palestinians or victory for Israelis. The United States, whether they're behind this or not behind this, should not have any reason to be ashamed at all for standing up for international law. It's something that they have stated for years now from bipartisan administrations that the entire world agrees on. This is not controversial. It's only a problem for one person, Benjamin Netanyahu, who staked his entire career on building in the right wing of Israeli politics. And he's vested, deeply vested in the settlement enterprise. What you're hearing from him today is all about him making sure he can stay in power. In fact, he reminds me of somebody that just got elected here in the United States.
Alan, I want to play this for you. This is Ron Dermer. I spoke with him, the Israeli ambassador to the United States. Listen. What's the evidence that the United States was behind this gang up? I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, we have clear evidence of it. We will present that evidence to the new administration through the appropriate channels, and if they want to share it with the American people,
why not present
they're
it
welcome
now
to.
when this whole
like I said,
controversy
we
is
will
going on?
present the evidence to the new administration, and if they want to share it with the American people, they're welcome to do it.
So if you're making a charge like that, shouldn't you show the information while the person is in office to respond to it or at least to embarrass them because they were actually behind it? If you actually do have the evidence, if they did, why wouldn't they just say, I have it, here's Mr. Obama, here it is.
Here's what's going to happen. They're going to give it over to congressional leaders. There are going to be hearings, and the truth will come out. Look, if the United States is not behind it, that shows even greater weakness. The United States should have been responsible for this. The whole idea that the United States abdicates responsibility.
Is reporting that it is England and New Zealand who's behind it.
Well, but there were meetings between United States and New Zealand, and meetings between the United States and Great Britain. The United States' hand is clearly in this, and this is revenge by Obama. This is not about Netanyahu, because Netanyahu on this issue represents all of Israel. The entire Israeli government is against this resolution because it doesn't limit itself to building settlements in the West Bank. It also includes Jewish Jerusalem, which Yosef thinks is part of Palestine, but nobody in Israel thinks that, and nobody in America thinks that. This is not between America and Israel. Americans are not behind this resolution. 88 senators are against it. All of Congress is against it. Much of the Obama administration was against it. This is one man, Obama, and his cabinet against the Israeli government.
There were 14 countries who voted for it, and
they'll vote for anything. There's always an automatic majority.
Yeah.
If Algeria introduced a resolution that the earth was flat and that Israel flattened it, it would win 143 to 26 with 14 abstentions. That's the way it goes in the UN.
Quickly, if you can.
I would just say what you're seeing now is an attempt by the Israelis. They, for a number of years, have been aligning themselves with the GOP, with the Republican Party.
I'm a liberal Democrat.
We saw it. Well, you know, there's fewer and fewer people who are thinking and talking like you, Alan, because the reality is Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israel he represents, the values that he represents, are looking less and less like the values that liberal Democrats continue to hold dear.
And how come so many liberal Democrats are opposed to this resolution? Democrats in the United States Senate are opposed to this resolution. This is bipartisan opposition. There is almost nobody.
Alan,
tell me somebody who supports it in the Senate. Tell me somebody who supports it in the Senate.
Look, it's not about the Senate. You look at American public opinion on these issues. People do not support Israel's settlement enterprise.
They do support Jews praying at the Western Wall.
This is not about Jews praying at the Western Wall.
Then why did the resolution say that?
There's a Brookings Institute.
Does not say anything about Jews.
There's a Brookings Institute.
You can read the resolution and it's not there. This
only
is
one way
about
to read it.
International law and Israel breaking international law.
Of course they're against settlements. They're not against Jews praying at the Western Wall. They're not against Hebrew
That's not what this resolution is about. It's what you want to make it about, because
it
says
we're going round and round. We're going round and round here.
Violations of international law.
Alan, I've read the resolution, and it doesn't say anything about Jews praying.
Of course, what it says is any change since 67. And before 67, these areas were Judenrein. Jews were not allowed to pray at the Western Wall. Now they are. It's a change.
But this does not say that.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't say that.
It says that any change since 1967. That's what it means. I want to ask the Obama administration what they think it means. Do they think it means that Jews can pray at the Western Wall or not? They haven't answered that question.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Always interesting. When we come right back. President Barack Obama says he could have defeated Donald Trump. Guess what the president-elect thinks of that?
According to the United Nations, Jews kill babies and take their organs. According to the United Nations, Jews kill babies and take their organs. According to the United Nations, Jews kill babies and take their organs.